Are you ready to dive in? Because today we're looking at
a
transcript. It's called Pasted Text.
Okay.
Pretty simple title, right?
Straightforward.
Yeah, very straightforward. But it's a conversation between Tom and Claire, and it seems like they host a podcast called Dragons, Unicorns, and Calumet.
I have to admit, I don't know what a calumet is.
So a calumet is... It's a peace pipe.
Oh!
Yeah, it's a Native American peace pipe.
Interesting.
So we've got dragons, we've got unicorns, and we've got peace pipes.
That's quite a mix.
It's an interesting combination,
Yeah.
right? So our mission today is to figure out if this conversation is just like whimsical, just fun banter, or if they're actually trying to say something deeper.
Okay. Yeah, like a commentary on society or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting.
So they start off by talking about Joe Rogan.
Oh, okay.
And they're talking about how he, seems to believe in dragons.
Joe Rogan, the podcast host.
Yeah.
Huh. That's not something you hear every day.
I know, right? It's not like a common belief.
No, not really.
So Claire, she's the other host in the conversation, she suggests that maybe dragons are like this masculine alter ego.
Okay.
She actually uses the phrase woke world.
Oh, wow. So she's implying that this dragon thing is like a reaction to that.
Yeah, it sounds like she's setting up this contrast.
That's fascinating.
Right. So like we've got dragons versus unicorns, and she goes on to describe dragons as representing this brutal, fiery truth.
Okay. I'm intrigued already.
I know, right? And then unicorns are more about hope and maybe a little bit of a naive worldview.
Okay. I see the contrast.
Yeah, and she even says, dragons aren't afraid to burn down the forest to make way for new growth.
Whoa, that's a powerful image.
It is, right? It's like she's saying dragons are all about disruption.
Yeah, shaking things up.
Exactly. And she contrasts that with the unicorn lovers.
Right. The ones who maybe shy away from the harsher realities.
Exactly, yeah.
It reminds me of like those debates about safe spaces on college campuses.
Oh, yeah.
Where some people say that shielding students from difficult ideas is actually bad for them.
It's like a real-world dragon versus unicorn situation.
That's a great connection.
So then Elon Musk enters the picture.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Because they talk about how he was on Joe Rogan's podcast and famously smoked a calumet.
The peace pipe.
Yeah, the peace pipe. And Claire playfully suggests that maybe Musk is interested in space travel because he wants to find dragons.
Wait, what? That's a bit out there.
I know, it's a little wild, right?
So is she serious or is she just being provocative?
I think it's probably a bit of both, but it does make you think.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Musk is known for his ambitious goals.
Understatement of the century.
Right. Like colonizing Mars. Come on, that's some dragon level stuff.
So she's kind of positioning him as like a modern day dragon slayer.
Yeah, venturing into the unknown.
And remember, she also mentioned galactic unicorns.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it's like, even in our pursuit of progress and innovation,
we still long for that magic.
Yeah.
So we've got dragons representing boldness and facing hard truths.
And unicorns representing hope and idealism.
And then we've got Elon Musk blasting off into space.
Maybe looking for both.
It's getting pretty wild.
It really is. And then Claire takes it even further.
Oh, no.
She suggests that the calumet itself, the peace pipe, acts as a portal.
To like another dimension.
Yeah, to a realm where dragons and unicorns coexist.
Okay, now this is where things get really interesting.
It is fascinating, right?
So what do you think? What's the significance of the calumet?
Well, traditionally it represents peace and unity.
Right, like bridging differences.
Exactly, but in Claire's interpretation, it becomes something more...
like a bridge between worlds.
Yeah, between the ordinary and the extraordinary.
It's like she's suggesting that maybe there's a way to reconcile these opposing forces.
The dragon's fire and the unicorn's hope.
Yeah, through a shared sense of wonder.
And a willingness to connect across boundaries.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is, and it makes you wonder if figures like Musk and Rogan are actually seeking peace through their unconventional pursuits.
Like their way of bridging the divide.
Exactly. It's a fascinating idea.
It really is. And it makes me think maybe we're all drawn to people who embody a bit of both.
The dragon and the unicorn?
Yeah, the boldness and the hope.
That's a great point.
So I'm curious to hear your take on this whole idea that belief in dragons reflects a societal yearning for something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept. It's like in a world that's so focused on technology and, all the rational stuff, it's easy to kind of lose sight of the mystery and wonder.
Right.
And she's saying that dragons with their power and, ancient wisdom, they tap into that part of us that wants something more.
Okay, but what about the unicorns then?
Right.
Where do they fit in if dragons are all about this yearning for something bigger?
Well, she doesn't see them as like the opposite of that yearning.
Okay.
It's more like they represent a different side of it.
Oh.
Unicorns are about purity and hope and healing. So they embody this idealism that's also part of being human.
So it's not like a good versus evil thing.
Right, exactly.
It's more nuanced.
Much more nuanced, yeah. And maybe the tension comes from how we interpret their symbolism.
Right, because she talks about the dragons like fighting the woke unicorns.
Yeah, that's a really interesting phrase.
What do you think she means by that? Is it like an actual battle?
I think she's being a little dramatic there.
Okay.
But the point is worth thinking about.
Yeah.
So the term woke today, it often refers to, being aware of social justice issues.
Right, inclusivity, sensitivity.
Exactly.
And I can see how some people might see that as clashing with the dragon's whole truth-seeking thing.
Yeah, because dragons are about disrupting things.
Right, burning down the forest.
Exactly.
And the unicorns in this scenario, they represent wanting to preserve innocence and hope.
Yeah, creating a better world, but being careful.
But she's saying maybe that can lead to ignoring some hard truths.
Yeah, that's the potential pitfall.
This is really interesting how these creatures can represent such complex issues.
It's true, they're like a shorthand for different worldviews.
So for our listeners who might be thinking, okay, but how does this apply to my life?
Right, what's the takeaway?
How can we use this dragon unicorn idea in our own experiences?
I think the takeaway is that these creatures can help us understand different ways of approaching the world.
Okay.
The dragon encourages us to be bold, question things, face the tough stuff.
And the unicorn
Reminds us to have hope and strive for a better world, be mindful of how we affect others.
So it's about balance.
Yeah, finding that balance between the two.
That's where the magic is.
Exactly. Remember, she talks about a realm where they coexist. Maybe that realm isn't a literal place, but a way of being in the world.
Okay.
Embracing both the fire of truth and the hope of transformation.
I love that. And it goes back to her idea of the Calumet as a portal.
Right. It's about finding common ground.
Understanding instead of conflict.
Ex-
And it makes me think about Elon Musk and Joe Rogan again.
The modern day dragons.
Yeah, their fascination with space and pushing boundaries. Maybe it's a way of searching for that realm.
Where the dragon and the unicorn can be in harmony.
That's a cool way to look at it.
And for our listeners, it raises the question, what are the dragons and unicorns in your own life?
Ooh, that's a good one.
What challenges you? What are your hopes and dreams?
And how can you use both of those to live a more meaningful life?
That's what she's getting at, I think.
This is great. I thought we were just going to be talking about mythical creatures.
But
this is so much deeper.
It really is. It's amazing how these archetypes can lead to such a profound discussion.
It shows how powerful myths and metaphors can be.
They help us understand ourselves and the world.
And it reminds us that even in a world that can feel so ordinary, there's still rickum for magic and wonder.
That's a beautiful thought, and I think as we wrap up here, Claire would encourage us all to keep exploring those internal dragons and unicorns.
Let them guide us on our journeys. So to our listeners, we'll leave you with this. Think about the dragons and unicorns in your own life.
What are your passions? What gives you hope?
And how can you embrace both to create a life that's true to yourself?
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
It's like she's saying it's okay to have both sides,
Yeah, to embrace the part of us that wants to shake things up and
Yeah.
the part that wants peace and meaning.
Right, exactly. It's not about picking one or the other. It's about bringing them together.
Finding that balance.
Yeah, and that's where the real growth happens.
It's like finding that sweet spot where the dragon's fire fuels us.
And the unicorn keeps us grounded.
This is amazing. When we started, I thought we were just going to be talking about dragons and unicorns.
I know, me too.
But this is so much deeper.
It's really profound.
It's like Claire is using these simple creatures to help us understand something really complex about ourselves.
Exactly, and it shows how powerful these myths and metaphors can be.
They can teach us so much about the world.
And about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what reminds us that even when things feel ordinary,
There's still magic out there.
we don't have to lose that sense of wonder.
That childlike curiosity.
Exactly. In
Yeah.
fact, I think that's essential for finding meaning in life.
I agree. And as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I think Claire would tell us to keep exploring those dragons and unicorns inside us.
Let them be our guides.
Yeah, and for our listeners out there,
Mm-hmm.
think about the dragons and unicorns in your own life.
What are those challenges that really light you up?
What dreams keep you going?
And how can you use both of those things to create a life that's truly authentic?
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Likewise, until next time, keep diving deep.